Welcome to my channel, where a trucker gets kidnapped almost while saying, "What the hell?" A man in his 50s, let's call him Mike, had been driving trucks for over 30 years. So when he felt the need to stretch his legs late one evening, he just pulled into a highway rest area, parked his rig and got out. It was about 11 p.m. and most people were off the roads, so the place was deserted. Mike quickly found an empty picnic table and sat down with a sigh of relief. He only planned to stay 5 minutes, maybe 10 if he got lucky. But after a few minutes, he noticed his cargo was still in the trunk, and he needed to get it into the main compartment before he hit the road again. So Mike got up, walked over to his truck and reached for his keys. But when he tried the door handle, it was locked. He fished out his key and tried again, but it didn't open the door. Mike stared at the handle in disbelief. He always locked his trunk with his key and never kept it in the keyhole when he wasn't using it. But now it was locked from the inside. Mike jiggled the handle, rattled the door, even tried kicking it open, but it wouldn't budge, frustrated. He finally forced the trunk open using a crowbar he kept in his truck inside. He saw 3 large garbage bags that looked ripped, squished and tied together with a thick rope. They smelled faintly but unmistakably like something decayed. Mike felt a chill run down his spine. What the hell? Just then, a loud gunshot rang out somewhere close by. It was enough to make Mike jump and panic. He slammed the trunk shut and ran to the driver's seat. He fumbled with his keys, but thankfully got the engine started and pulled out of the parking area. As he drove, his eyes darted nervously to the rearview mirror. He could see headlights gaining on him, flashing their high beams and trying to pass him on the left. They came dangerously close to forcing him off the road. Adrenaline surged through Mike. He gripped the steering wheel tightly and forced his truck back under control. But the other car wasn't giving up. It tried again to push him off the road, this time on the right side. The trucker slammed on his brakes, but the other vehicle behind him didn't slow down. It swerved at the last second, narrowly missing his truck. For a moment, Mike thought they actually wanted him dead. He glanced at his rearview mirror again and saw the other car gaining on him. It was big, sleek and black, like a big cat ready to pounce. The driver behind the wheel was going crazy. He could see the wild look on his face. But then something changed. The car behind him slowed down and finally flashed its headlights rapidly. Mike, confused, slowed down and pulled over. The car behind him did the same. As he watched, a group of police cars arrived and boxed in the other vehicle. Officers swarmed the car and pulled out 3 dirty, homeless-looking individuals, all 3 armed. The driver who had been chasing Mike looked at him for a moment, then hung his head and slowly raised his hands. The trucker's heart pounded as the police approached his truck. They asked him to step out of the vehicle and questioned him about what had happened. When they searched the back of his truck, they found the 3 dirty, homeless-looking people hiding there. They were covered in blood and reeked of alcohol and decay. Apparently they had stolen the car. They had been traveling and attempted to steal Mike's truck. One of them had a gun and fired a warning shot into the air. But when the police arrived, they dropped their weapons and surrendered. Mike never learned what the 3 people wanted with the bags in his trunk. But he suspected they weren't filled with anything good, and to think it almost ended with him getting kidnapped. In this second story, we are going to be telling you another scary story about a user who dared to enter the forest at night. If you like this kind of content, then make sure to stay with me till the end of this video. The night was as dark as pitch, the kind of darkness that seemed to have a life of its own, swallowing the feeble light from the moon and stars. A lone trucker was navigating the winding roads, his rig groaning like an old beast under the strain. He had been on the road for hours, the endless highway stretching before him like a black ribbon. The air inside the cab was thick with the smell of diesel and stale coffee, a testament to the long hours he'd spent driving. But the rhythmic hum of the engine was the only sound that accompanied him. That is until he heard it, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. A scream, a child's scream. It was sharp, piercing, and filled with terror. It made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. He wasn't sure if it was a prank, the call of an owl or something more sinister. But the scream hung in the air long after he'd passed the spot where it seemed to originate. His hand tightened on the steering wheel as he decided to turn his truck round. He had to go back. He told himself it was just a gut feeling, nothing more than that. As he retraced his steps, the forest on either side of the road grew denser, the trees seeming to close in on him. The scream echoed in his ears, urging him forward. Then he saw it again, the dark shape of a child in the underbrush. His heart pounded against his ribs as he slowed the truck, fear constricting his throat. Was it a lost child? Had someone been hurt? He needed to stop. The rational part of his brain screamed at him to keep going, to put the pedal to the metal and get away from that cursed stretch of road. But he couldn't leave the child in danger. He stopped the engine and killed the lights, leaving only the red taillights to pierce the darkness as he stepped out of the cab. The forest seemed to close in on him, the darkness pressing in from all sides. He called out into the stillness, his voice echoing eerily in the vast emptiness. There was no reply except for the rustle of leaves and the hoot of an owl. He started to walk towards the dark shape, each step crunching on the gravel, the sound amplified in the deathly quiet. But as he approached, the shape shifted and something small and black fell to the ground. He bent down to pick it up, his fingers brushing against cold, hard metal. In his hand, a small metal box, tarnished and rusted, lay a strange symbol emblazoned on its surface. What did it mean? Who put it here? And then he heard it again, the sound that haunted his nightmares even years later, the whisper of a child's voice carried on the wind. It seemed to slither through the trees, weaving a tale of sorrow and despair. His blood ran cold. This was no ordinary place. There was something here, something evil that lurked in the shadows, preying on the innocent. He turned and fled, stumbling back to his truck, his mind racing with fear. As he sped away, the image of the child's face burned into his mind. The scream tore through the night, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of his headlights. He never looked back, but he often wondered what horrors that forest held and whether anyone ever dared to go back and find out. The scream still echoes in his nightmares, a haunting lullaby that whispers of the darkness that lies in wait. And that's all for today's video. What did you think about this scary story? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you want to hear more scary stories, then make sure to stay tuned for more content like this. I'll see you guys in the next one. And this is the third and last story of the video. One night, during a long haul across a remote stretch of highway, a trucker decided to stop and rest at a run-down rest area. The glow of the moon cast sickly shadows across his truck as he settled in for some sleep. Suddenly, a face appeared pressed against the driver's side window, the man's eyes wild and teeth bizarrely sharpened in a sinister, animalistic grin. The trucker froze in horror as he noticed the attacker's mouth was scarred and bloody, as if recently injured. The man began pounding furiously on the window with a heavy hammer, shattering glass as he pulled a knife from his pocket. The trucker scrambled inside the cab, fighting to start the engine while the attacker raged outside. The sharp sound of glass breaking and the metallic flash of the knife made every second feel eternal. With trembling hands, the trucker finally turned the key, and the engine roared to life. He slammed the truck out of the parking spot, tires screeching, narrowly avoiding the attacker who lunged toward the cab. The man retreated to the road nearby, watching with a frightening, hollow stare as the trucker sped away into the night. The trucker reached the next town shaken, haunted by the attacker's twisted expression and the thin line between life and death he barely escaped. He never stopped looking over his shoulder from that night onward. It's just another day on the road for most truck drivers. There are times when being alone in your truck is not all that fun, especially when you're parked in isolated areas where you don't know who could be lurking around the corner. Our next driver found out the hard way that you should always be ready for the unexpected. While making a delivery in South Carolina, a truck driver decided to take a break from the sweltering heat and pull off at the nearest gas station. As he stepped out of his vehicle, he noticed a creepy man standing near the pumps who seemed to be staring directly at him. Thinking it was best not to make any sudden moves, the driver quickly went inside to use the restroom. When he returned, he was shocked to see the same man rummaging through the open bed of his truck. Adrenaline surged through the driver as he realized something was wrong. Without hesitation, he rushed to confront the intruder, but before he could intervene, the man swiftly jumped off the truck and disappeared into the woods behind the gas station. Fearful but determined, the driver immediately called the police and reported the incident. The officers arrived promptly and began an investigation, but the man was nowhere to be found. Despite the unsettling experience, the driver decided to continue on his journey, however. As the night wore on, his unease grew. Every time he stopped for a break, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Paranoia started to set in, causing him to question whether he was truly alone on the road. As dawn approached, the driver's anxiety eased, and he arrived at his destination shaken but relieved to have the ordeal behind him. Some truckers share their chilling encounters with us here at the channel. For more trucker tales, check out this playlist, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.